Session. We're going to try to keep as close to the schedule as possible. First of all, what about the food? Let's give them a yes. And, talking about food, an elder friend of mine was telling me, he said they used to travel a lot. And in one of their trips, they get gifts, and somebody gave them a lobster. So they don't, that's how we call it. And he said, my wife asked him, how do you prepare it? He said, you boil it. Okay. So they went home, and after a while, he said, I said to my wife, what about that lobster? We should eat it. So my wife took it out and put it in a pot and boiled it. After a while, he said, my wife, can you see how that lobster is? So she poked it. It's still hard, still not done. We ended up throwing it away, he said, because it was too hard, it doesn't boil. We have a couple of visitors from Nome in Alaska. And I want to ask them to come on up here, and I'll introduce them. And here is Bertha and Colleen. Yeah? Bertha and Colleen. Yeah. Okay. Bertha. This is Bertha, eh? Okay. This is Bertha here. She's Inupiat Inuit, and her family is originally from Wales, Teller, Council, Diomede, and Chukotka. She has lived in Nome, Alaska for most of her life and plans to retire there one day. Bertha has worked with the Kawirak Wellness Department for the last 2 years. She has worked in her region most of her adult life and enjoys walking alongside others. She would like to thank you for the invitation to present the wellness programs that they offer in the Sinatsuak region. Colleen Reynolds, she just wrote this down, so is Inupiat and Sami, Norwegian and Laplander. Her family is originally from Golovin and Teller. And that's you, huh? Yeah. Go like that. Yay! She has lived in Nome for 10 years. She works for Kawirak at the Cultural Center since September of last year. Colleen has lived in Alaska all her life. Colleen enjoys gathering berries and plants, spends time with elders, traveling in the United States internationally, loves to go to conferences and sing and dance and try to do everything else. Ladies and gentlemen, Colleen and Bertha.
Thank you. Oh, I could just put it down. Good. I got it. Oh, yes, please. Oh. Good afternoon. Wanga Ataga Bertha Sulinalek Kawelak, Wanga Pagyanga Jesus Kun, Suli Wanga Kamakaglu, Wanga Inupiak Sitnasakmin, Suliga Atali Inupiak, Russian, Italian, French, Chukchi, Suli Nalangmu, Wanga Anayo Glurunga, Utoyakmu, Kipkinakmu, Panagyanga Talimanek, Anya Tikatuna, Wana Avaga Dan, Anya Flora Lee, Telamute, Suliava Ola Piskoya, Inalemu, Suli Anya Sulinalik, Kingekmu, E Paganga Doang Kayukta Kuelak, Katinujuk, Inagian, Wuvilanek, Anayutim, Atugatuk, Telamanik. I said in my Wells Inupiaq dialect that my name is Bertha Sulinalek Kawelak. First, I am a daughter of a mighty king, and I take much honor in that. I am Inupiaq Eskimo from the Sitnasak region in Nome, Alaska. Family before me was Inupiaq, Russian, Italian, French, Chukchi, and Caucasian. I am the firstborn daughter of Albert and Helen Lee and have 5 siblings. My maternal grandparents are Dan and Flora Lee of Teller. My paternal grandparents are Olaf Piscoya of Little Diomede and Bertha Piscoya of Wells, Alaska. I am married to Dwayne Kayuktuk Kuweluk for 24 years, and we are blessed with 5 children. Oh, yeah. So that is me and my husband. It seems weird to put up my picture when you're introducing yourself, but I'm going to put my picture up. And that is Kayuktuk, and those are our children. We have 3 boys and 2 daughters. And then my parents are on the right-hand side with 4 of my children. And I want to honor my mother-in-law, who is Esther. She has taught me a lot about our culture and she's the one who taught me how to sing in our Wells dialect. So I want to honor her with the gift she's given me. And that is my husband. He has taught me and my children. Although I grew up living off the land, my husband is the one who is teaching my sons and my daughters how to live off the land also. So that is my husband this last fall fishing. Which one do I press? This one. This one?
Oh, didn't turn the pages. Well, I don't know my native language, so I will have to speak in English. My name is Colleen Ayulak Ayakungak Reynolds. Ayakungak is my maiden name, and Ayulak is my grandfather's native name, Inupiaq name. I was originally named after my grandfather's mother, but no one is left that remembers her name, so I grew up with my grandfather calling me Mom. And in our culture, it's okay to carry on, for a woman to carry on a man's name. Oops, I'm going too fast. So I am Inupiaq, Norwegian Laplander Sami. My grandmother on my father's side, she was Sami. My grandfather on my dad's side, he was a reindeer herder, and so when reindeer were brought over and introduced to the native people, along came my beautiful grandmother. I am from a small village called Golovin. Some people, when they first see it, they say Go-Lovin. It is very beautiful in the summer. It's the picture on the right. I currently live in Nome, Alaska. I have been there this December will be 10 years. The picture on the left is the ocean in front of Nome. I was out berry picking that day, picking blueberries. So my paternal grandparents are Siegfried Sr. and Mary Ayakungak. The far left is my grandparents when they were very young. In the middle picture, I rarely have pictures of my grandparents smiling, and so I really like that picture. The one on the far left, that's how I remembered my grandparents. My grandparents were older grandparents, so when I graduated from high school, my grandfather was 80 years old. My grandmother was bedridden most of her life. She had really bad rheumatoid arthritis, and so growing up every spring, there were 9 kids in my family. We'd be racing to see who would pick her the first spring flowers and the first berries. These are my parents, Martin Sr. and Esther Ayakungak. That's their wedding picture. I don't have very recent pictures of my parents because they both passed away when I was 10 years old. The middle picture are my older sisters, Nina and Emily, and the picture on the far right is my dad with my baby sister, Nancy, who is, I believe, 46 years old, and she's still my baby sister. Here's my parents had 9 kids. I was right in the middle, 4 older siblings, 4 younger, 2 older sisters, 2 older brothers. Both my older brothers passed away too. They experienced a lot of trauma from losing our parents when we were very young, and also the trauma from attending boarding school in Nome. And the picture on the far right is my mother. I'm sitting on her lap. And what I like about this picture is that we're all wearing mukluks, probably reindeer legging mukluks. So I'm the mother of 2 boys. The one on the far right is my oldest son, Rain, and his 2 babies, Bella and Skylar. So I'm a grandmother of 2. The one in the middle is my youngest son, Noah. He's 17. He just graduated from the Alaska Military Youth Academy. And on the far right is my nephew, Austin, with my son, Noah. And here's some pictures of our indigenous ways of life. I love berry picking. These were all taken last fall: blueberries, cranberries, blackberries, salmon berries. And I stay out there until my buckets are full. That's how much I like berry picking. Also, I love our native foods. We don't get the bowhead whale because they don't migrate where we live. So we like to eat the beluga whale, the white whale. And my son in the middle, we were out egg hunting in the spring. That's always a lot of fun. And here he is out ptarmigan hunting for the first time. And so everything that he catches for the first time, he has to give away to an elder. So we live in the Kowarek region. Sorry, I need to move ahead here. So the Bering Strait region is located in northwest Alaska. Can you hear? Or did it just stop? It's good? Okay. Just south of the Arctic Circle, the region is home to 3 culturally distinct groups of indigenous people. The Inupiaq reside on the Seward Peninsula, as well as the King and Diomede Islands. The Central Yupik primarily reside in the villages south of Unalakleet. The Siberian Yupik live on St. Lawrence Island in the communities of Gambell and Sabunga. And these 2 communities are closely related culturally and linguistically to the Chukotka people of the Russian Far East. The Native people have lived in this region as an identifiable culture for at least 4,000 to 6,000 years. The earliest documented evidence of human habitation dates back 10,000 years. Settlements concentrate along the coast and river system, as the sea was and is the principal focus of human activities. 20 tribal governments represent the 20 villages in the region. Of these villages, 16 are permanently inhabited. The IRA, or traditional council in each village, appoints 1 representative, normally the council president, to the board of directors for Kowarek, the organization that Bertha and I work for. The councils themselves are legal remnants of the native traditional governments that provided social order prior to contact with non-natives. These governments were subsequently reorganized and recognized as tribal governments under the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. And I think you could see Nome on there. Yeah, right there. So we live along the ocean. And of course, when you live along the ocean, you're always getting, in the winter, a lot of wind. And with a lot of wind in the winter, a lot of wind chill, and it gets really cold. So one of the NAWI, the Northwest Arctic Wellness Initiative, is an intertribal youth suicide prevention cooperative agreement between the Bering Strait region, where we live, and Northwest Arctic Borough of Alaska, which is the Kotzebue area, with an aim to expand its tribal partnership statewide. NAWI primarily serves Alaska Native youth and young adults ages 10 to 24 in the 27 villages surrounding Nome and Kotzebue. NAWI provides comprehensive, culturally relevant training and intervention to create self-sufficient, sustainable, community-level suicide prevention, intervention, and post-vention for Alaska Natives. The goals of NAWI are to expand NAWI to build a statewide collaborative partnership to advance, develop, and promote Alaska Native suicide prevention best practices, and increase youth wellness activities, mentor supports, and youth leadership to build throughout the region to decrease Alaska Native youth suicide. And increase youth and community dialogue to change the norms around suicide to something that can be prevented. And provide appropriate suicide intervention response, care, and recovery activities for Alaska Native young people in the Bering Strait region and Northwest Arctic Bureau. One of the ways that we serve our young people is through culture camps. We have Camp Igalik, which is around the Nome area, and Camp Bigak is in the Kotzebue area. They're both held in June in the summertime in the Bering Strait region and Northwest Arctic Bureau. The summer youth culture camps are targeted toward the high-risk youth population in order to provide interpersonal and cultural education and support through the development of healthy relationships with peers and mentors. Camp is an opportunity for youth ages between 15 and 18 to gather in an outdoor setting to learn a variety of skills, participate in cultural activities. Youth are connected to younger mentors as well as elder mentors in this healing and reflecting retreat. Youth participate in healthy physical activities during the camp, such as hiking, swimming, canoeing, berry picking, and fishing. They also learn about traditional plants, medicinal plants, edible plants, the different types of berries that we like to pick, foods and like masu, the edible root, and how to prepare and store these foods. Youth discuss healthy relationships, colonization, racial oppression, the role of culture in their lives. Youth are also introduced to skills and traditional ways of knowing. And this picture of the youth on that train, that's a famous last train to nowhere. It's down the coast from Nome at Solomon, actually where I grew up at Reindeer Camp. So I even played on that as a kid when we were boating oceanside from Golovin to outside of Nome to spend time at Reindeer Camp. So we also have hold decolonization workshops. They were developed locally utilizing several components of various trainings which address historical trauma, of which we do not learn until we reach college. They're not taught in our schools. Oppression and colonization. Tools from undoing racism. Recently we had a lady come up from Louisiana and a Native American from Minnesota. We had a three-day undoing racism conversation at our brand new cultural center. We also do Knowing Who You Are workshop, advancing Native dialogues on racial equity, Native organizing training, Family Wellness Warriors Initiative, which is run through Alaska, South Central Foundation in Anchorage, Alaska. Lee Manoa and resources, knowledge shared from local and statewide experts. The workshop focuses on self-awareness and healing, and additionally emphasizes impacts on interpersonal relationships, community institutions, and statewide federal programs, systems. Participants are led in activities to discuss the effects of racism, historical trauma, and colonization. Participants also discuss the process of decolonization and what it looks like when communities are healing from colonization. The goal of the workshop is to promote community empowerment and sustainable wellness. Oh yeah, she just reminded me that we're reaching out to all the institutions and organizations that serve our people in Nome, and we've recently had conversations with the Nome Police Department, Department of Corrections, because In our jail system up there, most of the Native people are in that jail. And so we have a lot of outside people coming in to serve us. And so we want them to understand who we are, where we came from, and all the years of oppression that we've been under. Oh, and also our healthcare system, Norton Sound Health Corporation. We do a lot of these conversations over there. We do a lot of training because a lot of our nurses and doctors come from the lower 48 states, and they have no idea what they're walking into. Most of them think that they're coming up there to make money, which the pay is very great. But since we started having these conversations, we've had feedback from people. One guy actually admitted that he thought he was coming to Nome to make a lot of money, but we were teaching him how to build relationships and make connections, and not just to learn about the Native people, but to take a look at his own family, wherever he may have come from. And so it's starting to open conversations for a lot of individuals. One lady, she is Caucasian from Florida, and she married an Athabascan Indian from Alaska. She couldn't figure out why she couldn't have conversations with her mother-in-law until she went through the orientation that I was providing when I was employed at the hospital. And she finally understood after learning about the historical trauma piece. She went back to Fairbanks for Christmas and had her very first real conversation with her mother-in-law. So it's very empowering. It opens a lot of wonderful things to building relationships. Another event that the Quirk Wellness does is an event called Walk for Life. This outreach event is Suicide Awareness Walk, which celebrates the strength of communities by celebrating healing and showing support for those in need. This year's regional event opened with a welcome from the local tribal dance group, the Nome St. Lawrence Island Dance Group. A local youth involved in prevention efforts emceed the event. And we even had the Nome Police Department paving, have his lights on ahead of us, leading the way there. So we try to, build positive relationships with those who keep watch over our city. A guest speaker who was also a survivor shared meaningful words to emphasize the importance of supporting one another. The Bering Strait Region Walk for Life, FLAIR, or most notable decorations adorned by walkers are large and colorful tissue paper flowers. This year, residents from the Cross Regional Halfway House and the local Seaside and the local Boys and Girls Club youth made flowers. Residents carried banners, signs, and showed support by walking together, along with the other communities across Northwest Alaska and throughout the state. In addition to the main regional hub Walk for Life event, the smaller communities surrounding were invited to host their own events. Smaller communities were supported through materials and assistance with their event planning.
I was telling her, I hope everybody could see me over this. And I kept seeing people jump off when they were done, and I was thinking, how am I going to get up there? So we have a system called Suicide Surveillance System. That's one of the things that we're working with the Northwest Arctic Borough, which is the Kotzebue region. We are working with both behavioral health departments in both Manilac and Norton Sound on coming up with a system where we could continue to walk with somebody who has attempted suicide and continue to walk with them by sending text messages, letting them know that they're thinking of them, few questions of reminding them about appointments. So that is something we're currently working on. It's just in the beginning stages. We work in the Northwest Arctic Borough with all their behavioral health aides and all the ladies who do tribal activities with their communities. So this is something that we're coming up with. We're really trying to figure out how it could fit in with our culture and with working with behavioral health that will provide a safe system for the people that have attempted suicide. We have what is called Youth Leaders. The Youth Leaders program was first implemented by the Northwest Arctic Borough 8 years ago. This year, the program brought together 63 at-risk per region, 126 youth altogether, with an adult mentor on a regular basis. According to the program documentation, more than 140 adults have volunteered their time as mentors. The largest event is the annual Youth Leadership Training, where both regions held their gathering in September of 2016. At this annual training event, youth leaders were trained in peer mentorship, skills such as listening, confidentiality, prevention efforts, warning signs, and what to do in case of a peer who exhibits signs of suicidal thoughts, speaking skills, and critical thinking. Past evaluation shows this peer mentoring program has a positive impact in the following areas: improved attitudes and behaviors, making healthier choices, diminishing participation in risky behavior and activities. Youth Leaders provides invaluable service to their peers and younger classmates by sharing goals, peer support, prevention education, and increased suicide and bullying intervention. In addition to the individual growth, evidence has demonstrated that this programming has a positive impact on the school environment. Since the start of the program, attendance has increased by 10%, and disciplinary referrals have decreased by 9%. This is particularly important in regard to the suicide prevention because school attendance and completion are protective factors against youth and suicide. Program sponsors and parents of the youth have also indicated that the program developed important leadership skills for youth and assisted in confidence building. It is an amazing program. We currently are trying to implement more cultural skills in there. At this time, we kind of have more classroom type things with behavioral health. But we are trying to figure out ways to bring the kids back onto the land and do more skill building on making drums, for instance, or looking at one of the things that we're also trying to look at is teaching the kids where we've come from. Because one of the things that we realize is kids, all they see in our area are people who are intoxicated, people who are struggling. So if that's all you see, that's what you think are where we come from. One of the things, our hopes in this is that we show them that we come from an amazing, amazing skill sets. We did not need what we have today, and our people lived for thousands of years without what the Western culture has brought. And the hope in these is that we instill their pride in who they are, in hopes that once they instill their pride, that they are more likely to embrace their family and embrace where they come from. So PC Cares is one of the programs that first started out in the Northwest Arctic Borough. We have had an amazing partnership with the Manilit Corporation. The PC Cares stands for Promoting Community Conversations About Research to End Suicide. It is a community-based capacity building framework created and implemented by community prevention partners in Northwest Arctic. PC Cares is a program that has 8 sessions, and each session goes over a certain aspect of life skills, and the behavioral health aides and tribal family coordinators in the villages walk people through this. And we are currently working with the Northwest Arctic Borough to bring this program to the Norton Sound region. We're just trying to figure out how we're going to tweak it a bit so it could fit in our communities. And with that, we have called together some residents in our community that have come from different areas in our region so they can help us implement the program better, so it'll better fit the community. Our hopes is always that our programs fit each community because each community is very different and have different things that they are struggling with. The Rural Providers Conference, Youth Track, we have an annual conference every year. In August, it's a cross-regional participation from culture camps and youth leaders. CUERC hosts a regional conference in the Bering Strait region annually. In 2015 and 2016, the Rural Cat Providers Conference was held in Nome as a joint effort with the regional conference. Traditionally, COERC offers a youth track in which youth are invited from smaller communities around the region to participate in youth-geared learning throughout the conference. The youth track agenda typically includes many presenters from around the state and nation discussing relevant issues such as suicide, healthy relationships, healthy choices, future thinking, and cultural activities. This year, COERC was able to host youth from the Northwest Arctic region to participate in the youth track. The participants invited were youth who had also participated in the culture camps and youth leaders program. Beginning in year 2, youth who are invited to attend the regional conference from Northwest Arctic Borough and the Bering Strait region will also participate in an evaluation activities such as surveys and focus groups to further evaluate the youth leaders and culture camps. We have in Nome, which started a few years ago, it was called the community members and institutions have understanding of true history. How is this? I was copying and pasting my presentation, so this is not good. So Nome Community Alcohol Safety Team is one of the things that we have put together in our wellness department. It is a committee who is a bunch of different community members in our region, in our area, from, let's say, juvenile justice, Department of Corrections, Behavioral Health, Norton Sound, COERC, some of our nonprofit entities. We come together as a committee and we talk about what is hurting our community in our region. We really do focus on the Nome community at this time. Our mission for the cast is our community supports everyone attending their own potential. We respect the land and the people who inhabit it. We value the wisdom of our ancestors and strive to incorporate their teachings into our daily lives. We believe that individuals have value, and their value to the community is demonstrated in policies, activities, and services provided by local institutions. We strongly support successful reintegration into the community for all our institutions, holistically, for all. Our institutions holistically support individuals and families with reentry, reintegration. Indigenous values and life ways permeate the criminal justice, education, and health systems. So we are currently working on, our focus with this is to work with different institutions like I said, juvenile justice and Department of Corrections. We really are trying to partner with them so they will invite us into their departments so we could teach and really walk one-on-one with the people who work with, like she said, our people from our region. There is I think it was like 90% of the men in our correctional system in Nome are from our region. They're Alaska Native men and women. And so our hopes in working with these departments is to teach them about where we've come from, and hopefully they'll have a better understanding of what they're facing. Because when the men go into the systems or any system, there is a little wall there. They don't realize that that wall there is from many years of suppression from the people that have come to walk with us. I jokingly say save us, but so our hopes in working with this program is to create a relationship so they can understand our ways of doing things, to work together to change policy and how they train their people. Currently with corrections, corrections and wellness do not work well together. So our hopes in working with them is that that partnership will become even so we can successfully walk with these men and women so they can stay out of jail and provide for their families. Part of CAST, we also, like Colleen explained, was decolonization workshops. We go into communities to provide those workshops only if we're invited. And that's one thing, we do not push any of these programs on our communities in our region because we have found that when we do push, they push back. So we really go into our communities and we sit with the leaders. And sometimes we do those joyous evaluations, but those do provide us a lot of information on where the community is, what they're really struggling at that moment, and how can we help them and walk with them. So we do have a lot of conversation before we implement anything. We also do racial equity discussions, which we are trying to start now in one of our villages who is really struggling with historical trauma. Knowing who you are is one of the trainings that we do in the schools. Our hopes with that is not only for the schools, but for juvenile justice in the correction system. It is a little not as intense as decolonization. Knowing who you are is just a basic conversation about what people go through and what they've struggled with. So the people who come in from outside understand who they're dealing with and that they are not really as horrible as they seem. They hear true stories from presenters. They hear true stories from people who are at the workshop, and it gives them a better understanding of how people were treated and how they continue to be treated in our systems. We have a policy work committee. Like Colleen said, we are trying to work with the Nome Police Department, who has a wonderful relationship with the community members. And we're trying to bring them in so they could understand the community they're working with. A lot of the men that come in to work for the Nome Police Department are from stateside, so all they hear are the bad stories. They don't know anything about our culture, about the people that they're serving, and what they've gone through. So our hopes with that is that we are able to work with them on the policies that they currently have to better serve the indigenous people in our area, because at this moment, the way their systems are set up does not work with us well. And it causes a lot of friction and anger between the two entities. So we have also worked with Family Wellness Warriors Initiative. I don't know if any of you have heard of them, but we worked with people from the Botswana area and Sault Ste. Marie. So Family Wellness Warriors is one of them that we still partner with at COERC, and we do talking circles with men and women in our area. Again, I want to say our work is based on community empowerment and the recognition of the roots of our issues. We continually work to raise awareness of the issues of historical trauma, colonization, and systemic institutional racism in our community and region, because the more people are aware of these issues, the easier it will be to change them as a community. We work to empower communities because we are aware that our issues stem from the root of disempowerment, and our work is framed around the theory that empowerment and awareness are the keys. This is why much of our work is more about providing platforms for communities to do the work necessary for themselves and working with communities to advocate for the systemic or policy changes necessary to continue to do work necessary for healing and advancement. We all know our communities are well when they are recognized their own power and use it. So we do invite communities to speak. If they say no, we step away. But we do our best to walk with them so we can form a relationship so they can trust us as we bring different things to their community and work with them. So, Quiana. That's it. That's mine.
Oh,
That's like sexual. So,
I just want to say something.
go ahead.
I have one thing I want to share real quick. Because a lot of the work that we do is very heavy, because we try to touch the hearts of our people to bring healing. And so we just love humor back at home too. And in October, we have Alaska Federation of Natives, which brings all the indigenous people in our state either to Anchorage or Fairbanks, and they work on, policies and things that affect the Alaska Native people, even our, they call it subsistence way of life, but our fishing, hunting, and gathering, and a lot of other things. And so there was an elderly lady from the Kotzebue region. She was taking a cab back to her hotel, and she got in the cab, and there was a nice-looking young man, strapping young man, obviously not Native, and he asked her, where are you going? And she said, you passionate? And he looks at her and he says, yes, I'm passionate. But I asked you, where are you going? You're passionate? And he was getting kind of freaked out, you know, because she was really old. And she finally caught on, and he enunciated to her again, where are you going? And so she enunciated back to him, you are passing it. So yeah, we love humor back at home. And also, I'm just kind of remembering when I first walked in here, because this is my first time visiting your place, and I had not even sat down. I was given my name tag, and I thought, what am I going to hang my name tag on? So I started digging in those yellow bags there, and Yukon Phil, he looks at my, the beaded, I don't know what you call these things, lanyards, and I was like, he says, hey, you want to trade? And he liked the colors that I had. And I was like, cool, they like to barter here too. So we traded lanyards, I guess. And it's been a real pleasure to be here. We thank you for inviting us, and we've enjoyed every minute of this. And our tribal healers back at home, they're going to make a special appointment just for me, because I went to see them 3 times because I really hurt my back from lifting too much. And they said, oh, we just want to hear about your trip to Yellowknife. And I said, okay, I'll come see you guys, and you guys get me in right away, okay? But the other thing that I wanted to mention was that movie, Snowwalker. That was the first time I ever heard of Yellowknife. Was it filmed around here? At where? Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies. I'll just update you on the agenda, and then we have time for questions. Because the wind has picked up and the tents are going to be out of commission for the rest of the afternoon, after the questions for the ladies here, we're going to have the students on the land panel. And breakout sessions, Kyla will be here talking about on the land collaborative work. And Ryan will have his session somewhere in the building, and at the time we'll let you know. The ladies were going to have a session, so we're going to extend this to give them time for questions and answers. So the session for the breakout is canceled for you. You don't have a location, so you have more time here now. And then the culture and the outdoor activities, those are canceled. We can't control the weather, as we heard, so we'll do with what we can for the rest of the afternoon. So if there's any questions for the ladies before?
Come on, there must be one question. All this intelligent, oh, there it is.
Good afternoon. I guess I should stand. I'm Karen. I'm from the Gwich'in Nation. I understand we have I'm familiar with the Inupiat, and we have Gwich'in in Alaska. Do you have Gwich'in in your communities? Do you know? That's a different region?
That's more. There's Gwich'in in Anchorage area and outside of there.
And so this, I'm not familiar with Alaska, so I know about the lower 48, and then we usually drive down through the Yukon down to get to Alaska. So if I wanted to go visit your youth programs.
We have to fly everywhere. We're not connected to any road system until we hit Anchorage or Fairbanks.
Wow. Yeah. Masi.
So any emergencies that we have in the village, you get appendicitis, you break your leg real bad, burns and stuff, we have to be flown out of our villages to our regional hub to Nome, and if it's more serious than that, to Anchorage. And for serious burn victims, they're flown all the way to Seattle from Anchorage, or right from your community.
Hi, my name's Pam. I'm Anishinaabe currently live in Ottawa. My family's originally from Jibahasing in Ontario. And I just have a question about your suicide surveillance system. And how did you get access to the numbers of at-risk youth in order to send them text messages? I wonder, is that done with phone companies or?
That'll be done in the intake process. There are hopes that, my understanding is they'll get information on the intake process and let them know what is coming. Like I said, it's just in the beginning. We are having conversations with the Northwest Arctic area because we're wanting to mirror their program. So we're just beginning to look at how it's going to look. We're looking at the questions still, but we're also still working with the behavioral health systems in place to come up with an agreement and how it really is going to iron out and what's going to be, how it's going to be set. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be from the intake process.
That's great, thank you.
Any other question? Maybe I'll ask a question. One of the things you mentioned is that you talk to the young people about we come from great, amazing people. Can you give us an example of what some of the teachings you give to the young people when you talk about the history of the people you come from?
In the decolonization process and the knowing who you are, we go back to where, so we talked a little bit about what is taught in schools. It's very Western. Truth is not in there about the history we know. So we talk about what happened with boarding schools and what happened to our people when the Western cultures came, and how they changed their elders and their parents, and we go from there. And we just try to instill in them that before they came, our people, were amazing. We were healthy. We had kugris where the men gathered. The men taught each other how to walk, guided the young men, taught them how to hunt, talked about the issues in their community. So we really show them how it was before. We have an elder, her name is Eva. She really has taught us a lot about what the history was, mainly from Little Diamond, from where my family's from. But we really try to explain to them, because what they see today is not how it was before. And we try to explain to them that we have much strength and knowledge in our people. So we share what we know, and we ask them questions, and we give them time to process what they've heard. So.
Anybody?
I
Okay,
have something to add
yeah.
to that. I work at our brand new Coeric Cultural Center. It was just recently opened in October 29th, 2016. And it's the first cultural center in our region. And so my job there is to do the cultural educational programming. And so right now, I think Barrow, Alaska is the only one that has cultural standards integrated into their Western way of learning. And so we're looking at that in the Nome region, coming up with our own cultural standards for kindergarten all the way up to high school. And so in our beautiful cultural center, we've been teaching our people how to make things like art, native artwork that they can sell themselves, because we have gift shops in Nome, and a native person can sell something beautiful for $50, and they jack the price up to $150. And so last summer was the first time that we had cruise ships come through town. And from what I understand, we're going to have like 3 a year. And so part of my thing at the Cultural Center is we're going to hire our own people to teach them how to make their own native artwork and their own cards, and present their artwork in a eye-catching way to sell them on their own, so that they can bring home all the money. And one more quick thing right now. We have the Iditarod sled dog race going on in Alaska, and Mitch Seavey, he just came in first place, I believe it was yesterday. And so right now, Nome has practically doubled in size. Part of the CAST, what's the first word? Community Alcohol Safety Team. So what we do to keep our people safe up there, which is even our visitors that come to Nome, we have like about 12 bars downtown, all on Front Street. And so we know that with any big event, especially like a Iditarod, everybody's going to be out partying and stuff. And so Cowarik Wellness organizes this safety watch for, I believe it's 10 days. And so we have teams of at least 3 or more people per night. They go out from midnight to 3 a.m. and the second team from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. or so. And so we patrol the streets. We look for people that may have had too much to drink, so that they don't, pass out on the ground and freeze. And we also watch out for predators, like, men preying on too intoxicated of a woman. So we try to keep everyone safe during that time.
I have a question or a comment. I'm an evaluate from the Beaufort Delta region, and we're in the Inuit circumpolar world. We're connected with each other, and I'm connected to those two ladies. Whenever I go to a meeting or a conference or a symposium, if I hear there's Alaskan Inupiat people attending, I'm attracted to them right away because my father is Inupiat. He's born in Barrow, Alaska. My mother's father is from around the Kotzebue area, and his brother lived in their area at White Mountain and lived in Nome for a while. So as soon as I knew where they were from, I went to them and asked them, "Do you know my Appa?" I call him, and Colleen knew him or knows him, and as she grew up as a young teenager, and I could feel inside me how much closeness I felt to them, because I know how much my mom would want to sit with them and hear about her uncle, because they met each other once or twice when she was younger, but that one connection with Jake John Titus, he started writing letters to her, and that was their communication. And he told her all about his family and what they did, and shared pictures, and in turn she did the same. And I always like to say, we're the circumpolar people and the indigenous people. That's how we are. We're connected with each other. The land connects us, and the people connects us. And I'm so glad to have met you, and I hope to see you again in the future, and make connections, because we do the same. We are on the same healing journey as you are. We are impacted from the same colonization, and we're dealing with the same issues, and we never forget where our roots come from, and we need to have long ago we shared and we traveled. This lady here, she was showing me how far they traveled, and that's how our people were. We traveled long distances to fulfill our winter food, and it shows how far we are from Inuvik all the way to Nome and White Mountain, where my Appa lived, and their family continues to live. How much connection we have, and let's build on that connection and heal our people and reconnect to our roots and our land.
And thank God for social media. Her and I are connected on Facebook now.
Any other comments? Anybody? Comments, questions? You did such a wonderful job, there's no questions.
Okay, we're going to move right into the next panel, which is going to be moderated by Karen Blondin Hall. So if Karen can come up, and the panel, Norman Yakalaya, Mandy McDonald, and Lois Phillip. If you guys want to make your way up to the